Welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, a podcast where I get to dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs, real estate investors, business owners, just people who are making waves in their industries. So, whether you are a business owner, a real estate investor, or just somebody who's looking to grow, you've come to the right place. You get to dive deep into those journeys along with me. I am Nathaniel Hovsepian. I am a real estate investor, a health and wellness coach for busy dads. But more importantly, I am a husband and a father. While I have closed millions of dollars in real estate transactions over my career, I've helped other people get started in real estate and do the same. I've also helped busy dads take control of their health and wellness through nutrition, movement, and mindset. This is not about me. This is about the amazing people that I get to dive deep, like I said, into their journeys. They come on to Networking with Nathaniel. They share their stories. They share their struggles. They share their successes. Wow, that was a lot of S's in a row there that I just rambled out. They share their successes that have helped them thrive, helped them grow their businesses, helped them grow themselves and their families. Today is no different. I have an amazing guest on Networking with Nathaniel today. He's been a real estate investor for quite some time now. He started out in the oil fields as an engineer and just got the real estate investing bug, and he's done a lot of amazing things. He's a leader inside multiple communities. I'm looking forward to chatting with him about those. Like myself, he is a husband. He is a father of 4 little kiddos. Without further ado, welcome to the stage, Casey. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I hope I did you justice there with the intro. I think I covered kind of the range of things that you've done. You've done a lot from growing up in Wyoming and paying your way through college, kind of going the non-traditional real estate investor route. But I think that's the cool thing about real estate investing is we all come from different places.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't use a whole lot of it now. I was having that conversation the other night with people going to school and all the time you spend on it. But I'm like, yeah, well, don't use any of it now. But it did teach me. It was definitely a big part of the path and what got me to where I'm at.
Yeah, I went to school to be a mechanical engineer. I graduated as a mechanical engineer and then did nothing with it. But I do agree with you. Like, it teaches you certain things, how you work. Do you work better under pressure? Do you need more time? We were kind of talking about that beforehand. Oh, I got 2 minutes to create this post right now and edit this picture. Yeah, I like that. That's me. But tell me what's kind of keeping you busy? I know you were supposed to come on a couple weeks ago, actually, and there was like a last minute scheduling change that we had to do. So what's keeping Casey busy right now?
Yeah, man. It was cool. Last week was a exciting week. I was actually down in Phoenix at I guess it's the New Reach offices where Pace has his office and Jamil Damji, and we were closing live deals. It was really cool. It was a group of like 75 new students who came in. They were like booking call. They were basically, they taught them from like scratch how to pull a list and then how to start calling leads, booking appointments. So we got to go close them live on stage. So it's really cool. Close the deals next to Pace and Jamil live. And of late, that's been the one thing I've leaned into a ton is like, getting to help these people. I had so many people help me along my journey, right, to get where I'm at as far as like the volume and what we do today. And so it's really fun to be able to go help them and see their transformation. And then, I mean, not only just, I mean, for intrinsically, it's rewarding to just see and help them and see them how thankful they are and see them succeed. And then the other cool thing is they actually help me in my business. A lot of these people are actually coming on and helping us. I'm able to like move them in. We've been really developing the process and system to like be able to quickly move people in to where they can come in, and we call it like an orbit program where they can come in and learn and see how we do different things and help bring us value. And then they get actually hands-on, can go do deals themselves after doing it with us. So that's been probably one of our main focuses lately.
What is somebody coming into that? What is like a time frame that they should expect? Because I know a lot of the times we bring people in from the communities that we're in. They want to be business owners themselves, so they're coming in to learn, and they help us grow, and we help them grow. And then, like you said, it's with the intent of, hey, you're going to go create a little business of your own after having seen behind the scenes.
Yep. Yeah, it's obviously dependent upon the role. 90 days is kind of a generic one we do, or a kind of at a minimum if we're really going to get them to commit and take some time to help train them, right? Because that's the only bummer is when you go do it and you spend a bunch of time investing to train them, to help them to where they can be helpful and go do and actually make an impact, and then it doesn't work out. So some 90 days is a minimum, but there are also some roles where, like, for example, like my capital raising role, I'm actually looking for somebody to actually not only take that past 90 days, but actually be at full time and actually help us with investor relations. And that's one I'm looking for, like, more long-term. And there's other different ones, like even TC, it's like, by the time you get somebody up to speed in 90 days, then you don't want to have to go replace them. So some of them were like, hey, we want this to go longer. And the other really cool thing, Nathan, is I've actually recruited all the people on my sales team that are now closing our deals. These were originally students who came in, wanted to get reps. Now they are my dedicated closers that get to close my deals. Now they're actually because typically students will come on, they'll be like helping me with a lot of outbound, or they're helping me with like niche lists and helping write letters, helping call these leads, right? Or using some of our AI features. And we use like an AI cold caller, and they get to help kind of follow up with that, or maybe they'll help with the texting. But these guys, now they get to get my inbound leads. So these are leads that come from digital marketing, Facebook, Google, also from our inbound from our website, also like inbound ones that like we sent direct mail and they're like ready to go. So they get to work like the awesome, good leads. And these are people that just kind of came in. Now they're like working 100% commission, and it's been a really cool way where they're winning. And then here's one thing, Nathan, I struggled for so long to teach acquisitions reps how to like do creative deals, right? And I was part of other masterminds, and they're at a very high level, like they're running high level sales teams and running meetings, running KPIs, doing all this stuff. And they're the pushback of like, it's hard to teach them to do creative, right? Hard for them to think that. And it's hard to really scale that, because I've always had that sort of unique gift after doing so many deals. But I finally have cracked that code to where now these students have a fundamental base coming from Subto, or maybe they could come from another community, but they've got an understanding. They're constantly growing that. And then I'm helping teach them. So now they're able to close creatively, which is really cool.
Yeah. All right. I got so many questions on this. What markets are you typically, marketing in and doing your deals in? Is it just Wyoming, or do you do them all over the place?
Yeah, my focus has always been our core is Wyoming, right? But we've branched out now into Montana. We do a ton of deals there. We're also doing Nebraska, South Dakota, Utah, and Colorado now. And we do look at deals across the country. I live here in Houston, Texas, and we look at stuff in Texas. It's a tough time to do deals right now in Texas, but that'll come back.
Why is that?
Especially when you compare it side by side, when you compare it with like what we see in Wyoming. So taxes way higher in Texas, insurance way higher, and then supply, right? There's so much supply now in Texas, but there's still people moving in, and it's still growing. So I don't really doubt the fundamentals. But for example, like a rental property, we have a deal that got brought to us, which is really good terms, where we can walk into this deal with really very little to no money down, and we're trying to rent it out. But there's a lot of stuff on the market right now, and in our markets, there's not enough, right? So you see that in Austin, you see that in Houston, where there's just a lot, and you just see how fast they're building, which is great, right? But I don't know, in Wyoming, we don't see that. We have all those things I just listed out are the opposite: low taxes, low insurance, and not enough supply. So that's why we've just really leaned and kind of doubled down in our markets, our core markets.
Yeah, we had at least one in Texas that was like lingered. Like, what are we doing on this? And everything looks good, but the further you dive in, okay, well, there's 8 other rentals in this neighborhood. There's 8 other houses on the market in this neighborhood. Like, oh, okay, we just got in at the poor time, unfortunately. But I know that you're doing a lot of different things inside, with regards to real estate as well. Can you kind of share with us single family, multifamily? Are you wholesaling, flipping, holding? I mean, you mentioned holding already, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. But to simplify it, we're focused on residential. we do outbound marketing to a lot of single family stuff, but we just naturally, we've pulled some multifamily lists and we are targeting that, but it's just a lot of those deals actually just come to me from reputation, referrals, relationships, a lot of the larger multifamily stuff. But yeah,
Okay.
we do all that outbound marketing. And then when this deal flow comes into my pipeline, that's honestly one of the most exciting things I've created over the years is the deal flow. Now we can, like, I just had a meeting right before this one about an hour ago where we're like, okay, here's our list of deals we got. What are we going to do with them? Some of them were like, all right, this is a fix and flip. All right, this is a good buy and hold. Some of them we're going to just wholesale to somebody else, and like if we can make our profit cover some of our marketing, and that's how we again pay for our commissions and pay for our
Mhm.
overhead. We'll do those, right? Some of them I'm taking down with my fund and taking down with other limited partners, and that's another one I was going to bring up earlier when we're talking about working with new people. What me and you talked about it is I'm now working with a fractional account to where now it used to be I could just only work with accredited investors, right? And that was a little bit limiting. But I always had other people reaching out that were like, "Hey, I want to be a part of your deal, Casey. I want to do a fix and flip with you. I want to do one of these multifamily buy and holds with you as well." Right. But we couldn't do that. So now fractional is allowing us to bring in people to do those deals with us too.
Yeah. Yeah, that fractional is going to be a game changer for that reason is people wanna get invested in real estate, but you're like, I can't fork over 50 grand for an entry fee. I'm not accredited. I only have, 7,000. I say only. I have $7,000 that I can invest with. Like, okay,
Mhm.
fractional is a solution for that because now we can bring in, 5 people at 5,000, $10,000 and make that entry fee into properties. And now
Mhm.
everybody's invested into the deals and they're all getting to learn, they're all getting a return on their money, they're all getting that experience of owning real estate. So that fractional has really been a game changer. Where are you at in that process? Because I'm still at the beginning stages of mine.
Yeah, we're actually building out our community right now. And kind of an exciting thing I had based off the momentum from last week is so I didn't mention this, but in addition last week to being closing live deals up on stage, I made it a goal going into the week that I was going to do 100 seller appointments throughout one week. And we had the idea when I was on my team meeting and we were really starting to get a momentum. We had a lot of marketing going. I'm like, you know what, guys, why don't we just go all in on this? Because I help with other challenges and people are always bringing me appointments and deals. I'm like, why don't we just go all in for a week and see if we can do 100? So these weren't like 100 outbound calls. These were 100 qualified appointments that either my
Oh, wow.
team or other students or other people who had vetted for me and scheduled. So I went through all that last week. We're still working on exactly how many offers because a couple of them we're just waiting to get the final numbers. But we hit it. We hit 100 appointments. I'm going to guess we landed over 50 offers, and I'm going to guess we get at least 10 contracts out of that, if not 20. The first 10 will probably come in the next week, and then the other 10 kind of come over time in our market. But the
Mm.
reason I bring that up is like this is a great opportunity to now take all these deals because again, it was a really cool being able to close those deals live, meet new students, meet people who want to be in those deals. So I'm like, all right, we created all that momentum, but now the next hurdle is when you go buy a bunch of deals, now you got to figure out how you're going to dispo them, how you're going to go raise capital for them. I'm like, all right, there's the solution.
Yeah.
We just got all these deals. We've also made all these good connections with people who want to participate. Let's use fractional to go take down a big chunk of these new deal flow we have.
You don't have to say no to them, or you don't have to say, "Oh, we'll just wholesale them now." How long
Bingo.
have you been how long have you been doing the fund? Because I know that's a process.
Oh yeah, for sure. I first started looking at it. It's been almost like 3 years ago when we first started exploring like, hey, like I first met with the securities attorney, got the documents drafted and then yeah, and then I've like the first big deal I did, I actually didn't do through the fund. This was 2 years ago. I actually did it just with a 50-50 partner. We bought a 66 unit multifamily value add, which was awesome. We're about to go full
Mm,
circle and refinance on that one. And then,
yep.
yeah, then it did a second one, a 45 unit, and then have done several since. So it's been a kind of a slow evolution. It's not a fast thing for sure. Like sometimes it's not like a wholesale deal. It's just, it takes time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like the good things. What is it? Good things come to those who wait, or something like that.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You you I see you on social media. It's funny you mention all these other things because most of what I see, and I don't watch a lot of social media, so take this with a grain of salt. But is you in multifamily properties. Hey, you're walking multifamily properties, you're talking through, hey, this is what we're doing with these. I guess on this note, what's the best way for people to connect with you on social medias? What are you typically posting on?
Yeah, I mean, I always say wherever you guys are at, I'm on most platforms.
Yeah.
But I would say the one I am most active on is Instagram because I like all my followers. I should really consistent on my stories. I like to show people when we're on the road and what we're doing. You kind of get to see
Mm.
more of the behind the scenes. So I think Instagram's a really good way to kind of connect and get to know me. But also I put stuff on YouTube. So if you and all of it's just at Casey Gregerson, just spell out my name. Make sure you get all the E's and you'll find me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Or if you're a LinkedIn guy, I know a lot of more of our accredited investors. A lot of those guys are on LinkedIn. So I post all our stuff there too, or Facebook.
Yeah.
I think almost everybody's on Facebook. So you can always find me there too.
Yeah, I like Facebook's kind of a combination. I like what you said. Like Instagram feels a little bit more personal, behind the scenes kind of thing, and then YouTube is a little bit more education,
Hmm.
kind of almost value kind of thing. So, um, you made this transition from, and this is going back a little ways now, from the W-2 to being an entrepreneur, being a real estate investor. Um, was there anything? Was there anything that you kind of took from your W-2 that you learned along the way that helped you make that transition? I don't know how to better word that question, Casey. I apologize here.
No, that's all right. I can
Yeah,
run with it.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of on one note, there's a lot of little things that I've taken from my W-2, like process and system wise. So I worked for Shell for 12 years in oil and gas, a very, very systems driven company and
mm,
processes. So they call them like processes, but there's a Dutch company. But there was so much emphasis on it. And that's really helped me. And that was one thing I did. I think I'll answer your question is when I like to tell this story. So when COVID hit, right, we were all locked down. We actually at Shell, they had just laid off, or they were planning to lay off 40% of our company. So I was one of the ones that in my organization got laid off. So we had to repost for jobs. So we're sitting
mm,
there without a job. Oil's just gone to negative, right? And we're all locked down, and it's a pretty scary time. But what I thought then was like I read a book called 4 Hour Work Week, like right around that time, and I'm like, holy cow! Well, first off, it inspired me to go hire virtual assistants. But the second thing, I'm like, why don't I just write down everything I'm doing? And I took that, like, kind of that Shell SOPs, like always standardizing. And I just like everything I'm doing. Why can I not write it all out in a SOP and train a virtual assistant to do? So it's actually
mm.
exactly what I did, right? I just wrote it all in a Microsoft, in a Google Doc, right? I recorded videos of me doing everything. And that was the first thing I really standardized was my property management business. I'm like, if I can manage property from Houston, and none of my properties in Houston other than like one property, the rest of the other 10, 20 properties I had at the time are in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Wyoming. If I could do all that, why can't I train somebody overseas to do that? So that was one of the
Mm.
first things I did. And knowing those processes has really helped me to build that out.
Yeah. I didn't know that Shell was a Dutch company.
Yeah.
Wow. Uh, okay, so you have systems and processes that you started building out. I'm assuming that you've been building them for every other aspect of
Mhm.
things now. How many VAs do you have at this point?
Oh, that's a good question. It fluxes too. I mean, I'll say this. We have two of them running our property management. I have three of them running our content and social media. I have on my sales side, we have typically at least two of them from texting to callers, 2 to 5.
Okay.
That one kind of ranges. And then, yeah, even on one on the bookkeeping side. And then also, we're working on getting another one or two of them into our construction because that's actually one where I really need to help sort of standardize and just tracking budgets, doing some of the busy work. I'm trying to help take off some of the loads of my like lead foreman and my project managers to delegate some of that to VAs. So
Interesting.
anywhere from 5 to 15 at a time.
Yeah, well, that leads me kind of to the next question is why is there so much flux in this?
It just depends on, well, I mean, part of it is AI, right? We're learning more and more optimization to where, all right, we can do so maybe, and I've always just tried to be like, because man, our VAs, I love some of them are really loyal. They've been to us for a long time. So I
Mm,
challenge them. I'm like, hey guys, we're growing. For example, our property managers, we have about 250 units right now. We are taking on another 150 some. So we're going to be up around 400 by within the next month or two, based on what we have under contract. So
Nice.
typically that's, we're almost not doubling, more than 1.5xing. I'm right. All right. But how do we, so my challenge to them is, how do we use AI to where these two property managers can manage double the amount, right? And I'm like, let's challenge you guys to do that. I don't want to continue to hire more people, but I also don't want to lose these guys. And I appreciate what they've done. So that's one way we try to always use more. So AI is having a huge component into that.
Okay. Yeah, that was a big, at least for day 1.5 of Squad Up Summit, was they were talking about AI a lot. Like, this is the wave. This is where things are going. If you're not already integrated, like, you better start integrating right now. What tools are you guys using that you're seeing are most effective in the AI space?
Yeah, a big one is Prop AI,
Okay.
which is a great one for doing more outbound marketing. So we use that a lot on our direct to seller side. We're also using it to help us sort of automate some follow-ups, and even on our sales process, and automating the sales process, especially when it comes to follow-ups. It's just, that's the name of the game. And if you could standardize, that's a big one. Same thing with like property management. And one of our next big projects is to how can we automate that follow-up? How can we work our like applicants through the process faster and easier? And when tenants have questions on the lease or whatnot, how can we just answer that with AI? So there's a couple big ones. And another one, a bigger project I'm working on, and love to hear anybody who's nailed this down, but we're always looking for more buyers and tenants. And we do a lot of AI on the marketing side for sales, but I want to be able to apply the same concepts to finding more tenants, finding more, or even dispo, right? When I've got a property, then I'm like, hey, I want to wrap this property to a home buyer who maybe can't qualify, right? And that's right now, as it stands, it's a pretty manual relationship, kind of a long game process. So I want to be able to apply AI to where, okay, I want to be able to, if I have an opportunity, how do I get this in front of as many people? Because I always say I want to talk more, type less. Right. So I just want to be on calls. I want to be connected with the right people that I can help, right? Versus me spending all the time prospecting and typing and just trying to book appointments, right? Let's use AI to do that part. And that way I can be having high value conversations.
I like that. You mentioned relationships a couple times now. Before I ask this, Kay in the chat asked if there's a specific place that you hire your VAs through.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of companies out there, and I've worked with quite a few of them. But currently, RESVA, those guys are really good. Because I can tell you this: when you hire VAs, it's a lot of people do it and they have a bad experience and never go back just because you get the wrong VA. And I'd say if you try to do it, your best bet, your highest percentage is 50% like retaining rate if you're trying to do it on your own. But we've had way more success with those guys because they vet them. And I've just found like you could try to do it yourself, but it's better working with a company like they've got boots on the ground, know those people. So that's what we had success with.
Okay. Yeah, I've used a couple different VA companies. I'm not going to name here because they are competitors and all that. I just went through the hiring process for our executive assistant. I used Online Jobs. It was more of a job posting, kind of LinkedIn-ish in a sense, or Indeed-ish in a sense, but specifically for people looking for virtual work in the Philippines. So I could put that in the chat for you. So you did mention relationships here. A lot of your jobs are, dang it, onlinejobs.ph. This is good quality podcasting here. Me talking through what I'm typing. Talk less, type, or talk more, type less. Oh,
there you
go. The relationships that are bringing you deals, the relationships that are bringing you buyers. At what point in your career, because we hear that, chase the relationship, not the deal. At what point in your entrepreneurial career did that click for you? Was there anything like an aha moment that goes, oh man, I need to be more diligent, more intentional with the relationships that I'm building?
Yeah, it's definitely been an evolution. You just see it, you hear it, and then you start to see it happen. I know in terms of like our direct to seller business and working with trying to find the right buyers, right? In Wyoming, it's always been a struggle because it's truly a blessing, honestly. There's way more upside, and I feel like we've mitigated the downside. But in Wyoming, there's not as many cash buyers. There's not a bunch of investors, and the huge upside of that is, like I talked earlier, there's less competition. Like when I do direct to seller marketing, I'm the only one they're talking to a lot of times. So big upside, right? The downside is when you go wholesale something, there's less investors to go sell to. So, but by relationships, that's how I've really built that, right? Is I've gotten to know people, they've gotten to know me. And when I've got it, because a lot of times when you have a deal, I'm like, I see the upside, I see the opportunity. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to go wholesale this thing for this other guy who's super skeptical. And I would be too, right? If I don't find my own deal, I'm skeptical and I'm trying to figure out what am I missing here? So I found that building relationships has helped out our dispo to where, like, okay, these people, they know what I'm looking for. They know and I can articulate, hey, this is why I think you should do this deal. This is why I would do the deal, or why I'm not. So that's really helped. And then I say the second thing is, as far as maybe a moment, I think definitely over the last year and being part of Owners Club is now, like, this is the best example. So the very first retreat we did for Owners Club last June in Scottsdale, I almost didn't go, right? We had just joined and it was a new trip and I just got back from another mastermind and I'm like, man, I don't have time. And I was in the middle of this raise. I needed to raise like another $1 million for this fund. And it was stressful, right? I'm like, I got to get this deal done. It was a really big deal, like a life-changing deal. I'm telling you, like an incredible deal I found, but I was still struggling to raise. I'm like, well, I was not going to go. But then I had this realization. I'm like, hold on, if I go there, I'm going to be around like-minded people and people who go. I think that's going to give me the best opportunity to raise versus me sitting back in my office, pedal to the metal, just trying to grind it out. So that's what I did. And we ended up raising the money there, funding it like literally at the last minute. It's an awesome story I'll have to share when we have more time sometime. I literally inked that deal on the flight home because I almost lost it. And it was one of the coolest stories ever. But again, it's relationships, right? Leaning into that community. And over the last year, I raised, I would say, I don't have the exact number, but I would guess over 50%, if not 75% of the funds I've raised through my deals in the last year have come through relationships and Owners Club. So it's just all about going deep, man. Get to know those people. And then when I go present a deal, they know me, they know what I'm looking for. And there's a lot more built-in trust and it's just easier to do deals together.
Yeah. I love that. It's like, you've got to be playing a long game here, and thinking we're playing chess, right? Not checkers. Like, I'm thinking moves ahead. Go build the relationships now that are going to reap the dividends in the future. And that's something that like I struggled with for a long time. I was like, okay, I go connect with somebody. Oh, we can't do a deal right now. Like, not that's really rude to just like wave, but yeah, like, well, I don't need to follow up with them. And then you haven't built a relationship. So when the time comes that like, oh yeah, remember that person that, had the connection? Hey, it's Nathaniel. It's been 1.5 years since we chatted. Oh no, forget you. So I love that you mentioned that. I think for people that are listening that are just getting started, like, doing deals is great. Like, you want to do deals now, but it's about being able to do deals forever for a long period of time. So, leaving your W-2, was there anything that you really was like a huge struggle for you making the transition into being an entrepreneur?
Not really. Man, it's I had the luxury of like, I was already doing it, right? Like, I didn't share this earlier, but those who know me know that when I worked in oil and gas, I worked for 2 weeks. A lot of my career, I was 2 weeks on a rig or a frac spread, 2 weeks or out on a platform for 3 weeks in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and then home for 3 weeks. So I was always having time to build up and do this entrepreneurial stuff, even from the day till the day I left my job. Like, my last gig was amazing. It was 3 weeks in the office and then 3 weeks off. But even in those 3 weeks on, right, there was a lot of downtime, right? And that's when I was being an entrepreneur already. So when I finally left, it was like, all right, now I've got no constraints. I can just go into this like full steam.
Yeah, really explode this thing. Okay, so that wasn't that helpful. No, I was hoping yes, and then here's how I overcame that. What do you kind of mentioned the AI. right now, the systems and the processes you're working on, what struggles do you see that you're going to need to overcome within the next, 3, 6, 12 months in your business to get you to where you're trying to go?
Got it. Ooh, hold on. Can I go back one? I thought about one
Okay.
for you on the
Okay.
last
Yeah.
question. So,
Yeah.
back to the, like, leaving my job, like, one of the things that you're thinking about, like, the financial part, right? And how much money I had coming in from that job. And now I'm 100% just providing from my entrepreneurial stuff. But what I
Mm,
did, and this is a cool tip, I think, for anybody else, a couple years before I left, I started tracking my cash flow, right? Because in this business, cash is all over the place. Like, right, you flip a house, you got 250,000 comes into your account, right? And then, or you've got several closings and a bunch of cash comes in, or they get delayed, right? And it's just constant, like,
yeah.
tug of war, right? And you're trying to balance it. So I'd been using a spreadsheet to where I could project out like 3 months ahead of time, right? And I could be looking, knowing, hey, when do we need to, what moves do we need to make, right? So I was looking at that, and I've been doing that for a couple years, and then I'm like, and that was another thing that helped me leave the job, because I'm like, hold on, this is the decisions I'm making are all based around the decisions I'm making as an entrepreneur and in real estate, right? At the time I was making about 200,000 a year as a W-2. And I don't know, say after taxes, that was like 10,000 a month or something. Like, that 10,000 coming in each month was not moving the needle on that spreadsheet, right? It was not going
Mm,
to help or save me, right? I had to continue to do deals and learn how to manage my cash flow. So that's one where I was like, hey, this isn't a huge deal anyway. I've already been managing it. So I think that made it easier when I left. I'm like, I'd already been sort of managing the money anyway, and I'd been working out, projecting it. So, to where, yeah, it was nice always having that, right? And honestly, it was more so nice for, like, banks, because they're like, hey, they could see that. But the other thing I did is I spent years and years of, like, building up my business. And now I could show on my tax returns that, hey, my business is profitable. So now I
mm.
didn't have to feel as bad about, all right, now I left that W-2 on the table, and now banks won't finance me. And there are still, I mean, I can't go to Wells Fargo or Rocket Mortgage. They're probably not going to finance me, but small banks that I have relationships with, those ones could still work out.
Yeah. Before we get to the future struggles or the projections kind of struggles on the financing side, we were talking about it slightly beforehand, but you've done a lot with 0% credit cards. How do you go about that? Or I guess, before you answer how you go about getting those, what is a 0% credit card?
Yeah, man, a really cool way for people to get into the game that maybe don't have a bunch of cash sitting around but have credit. So I did this when I first started. We owned franchises years back, right? And that's when I first learned about this. Was, if you have an LLC, you could go down to a bank like Chase. Again, Chase, not where I would do my business bank account, but great for business credit cards, right? We
Okay.
actually, so what you do is Chase. A lot of banks do this, right? Amex has a good offer. So does U.S. Bank, but Chase has, I think, the best program. So you go down there, you open up a credit card in your business, in your LLC, and you're still going to personally sort of back the card, or personally, they call it your signature backs it, but it doesn't show up on your credit. And they're always running offers of like 12 months, no interest. Right. So initially on my first card was like 20,000 that I got 0%. And I was pumped, right? I got 20,000, 0%.
Yeah.
As long as I paid it off, I was good. Right. And I just used it for business expenses. Right. But what I did is I started stockpiling these and getting them in all my businesses, to where now, and here's the cool tip we were talking about earlier, is that at the end of that 12 months, there's a little hack that you can do. And Chase is like, they'll tell you how to do it. Right. It's not like because when you hear this, you're going to be like, why in the world would Chase ever allow you to do that? Like, that seems
Yeah.
like that's not right. But so at the end of the year, what you can do is you can go apply for a new credit card in the same business or a different one. And that new credit card will have 0%. And now you might not get the full 20,000. Like, let's say my first card was 20K, right? I went and got the second one. At the end of the year, I could only open maybe another 5K, right? But what I do is that 20K I pay off, and then I can go request a credit line transfer. So that 20K I move over to this one. Now it's 25K. And this one has 12 months of interest, right? Because this one, the interest expired after 12, right?
Yeah.
The 0%. Now I transferred over here. I got 25. So I've been doing that for like 4 or 5 years. I now have like $160,000 0% interest credit card that I just keep rolling each year.
Yeah.
Right. So I think
Mm,
it's a cool strategy for anybody. You're not going to start with 160 more than likely,
right.
but you can start somewhere and start using that.
Yeah, and this is something that you could go in and do yourself today
Oh yeah.
at a
Yeah,
Chase.
anybody
Yeah.
could go down there. Like I do think trying to think if you could do it if you don't. There are some 0% interest credit cards that are not in your business you could still do. But yeah, I like if you got an LLC or like what I'm looking at doing is you can go partner with somebody else on their LLC. And if you are part of they can add you to their documents, right? And you can because like what I've done is my partners typically will get separate credit cards and it's separate limits. So they don't look at like you're going to eventually
Yeah.
get capped out on a limit that you can draw from Chase, say, but they don't typically like it resets when you go get somebody else. I don't know if you had like 10 or 15 people eventually, if they're going to be like, this LLC has $1 million
Yeah.
at
Right.
0%, that might
Yeah.
be something, but you can definitely do it across multiple people.
Yeah, like, you're not supposed to take advantage of the banks. We're supposed to take advantage of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you've got a lot going on. You've got this, 100 and I think you said it was like 150 or 160 doors you're gonna be adding really soon. And that's not the end for you. You have ooh, okay, before I ask this, do you have a Mount Everest?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. For people that are not aware, in Owners Club, Pace Morby has pushed the Owners Club members to create what's called a Mount Everest, this 5, 10, 20-year goal, this huge goal that you're going after. For some people, it's 1,000 doors. It's creating an elephant sanctuary in Africa. You name it. Just this big audacious goal. So um, Casey has a Mount Everest he's going to share with us, and then we're going to ask the struggles question.
Cool. Yeah.
We're
So
gonna get
mine
some.
is to help, and I might be resetting this number because it might be, um, we might be achieving it too fast. Because it's
Mm,
like a big 3 to 5 year one, and I'm hoping I can do it way sooner than that. But it's to help 100 families achieve financial freedom, right? So I was able to do that with my job, and it's just been a huge passion of mine. And I just saw it when I worked for Shell, and I was going up and down. Right? We had. I always tell this story. There was 6 straight years before I left of like some sort of layoff. Like typically it was 10% every year, but
whoa.
that one year was 40%. So I just saw people go through this stress, and then I also worked with a lot of guys in the field that they never got to see their kids, and they missed so many important memories and so many important opportunities. And I finally, that's what ultimately led to me leaving, right? Is I'm like, I am not going to continue to miss that stuff. And I want to be there but I had created financial freedom through investing and through real estate. So my thought is I want to help 100 people do that. We're doing, it starts with like a 2-day workshop where people can come in. We're doing our one in Houston here this summer. And with that 2-day workshop, because people are probably like, well, that's a generic number. How does that even work? What does financial freedom mean? It's different for everybody, right?
Mhm.
So what we do in that 2-day workshop is we look 10 years out, right? What are your where do you want to be in 10 years? Right. And then we back out to 5. And then we keep backing our way down all the way down to like when you leave that, you're going to know in the next 90 days, what do I need to focus on to get where I need to go? And we're going to build that blueprint and stay in touch with and like really give them some resources after the 2-day workshop and follow-ups to where they can kind of make the steps there. So that's the plan to get these 100 people there.
I love that. It's like you knew what I was gonna ask next. Um, 'Cause I was gonna ask, what's the definition of financial freedom? So it is because it is different for everybody. For some people, it might be $5,000 of cash flow a month. For others, it's 50,000 kind of FU money, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's my definition of financial freedom. So thank you for jumping the gun on that. So, and you did mention like it's a moving target. Like the
Mm-hmm.
Mount Everest is while the real Mount Everest doesn't. Oh, it changes, but like doesn't really change. Like our 5, 10-year goals, those are allowed to change. We need to make them movable and changeable because what we see as a 5-year goal that seems daunting and unfathomable right now, in 2 years from now, you're like, "Oh, no, that was a 3-year goal. Like, now I need a new 5-year goal." So I love that you mentioned that. Wh what do you think this hurdle is, these struggles are gonna be for you achieving that Mount Everest in 3 to 5 years or sooner?
Yeah, I think the initial one has just been getting our first 2-day workshop up and off the ground and going, right? And just
Mm,
like we're keeping it small, but again, I'll just be open and honest with you guys. Like it's like my fear is like we go do this one and we don't get a good turnout. Right. So one way we're hedging that is we're going to keep it a small one and make it, and honestly, it's going to be the best one, I think, because selfishly, or other people should say selfishly, because there's going to be a smaller group to really get to know. We're going to continue to grow this each time. But just getting that off the ground and helping the initial group, because I know once the first group comes in here and they get started, they're going to be like, it's going to be so much value and they're going to be so excited to move forward. So I think that's been the sort of big challenge, is creating the initial momentum and keeping it
mm,
going. And then I think, yeah, I'm just excited for it to go from there and see how it scales. And then, yeah, and then maybe another challenge is how I'll continue to help it scale, be able to hire the right people to help me kind of facilitate this and move it forward. But yeah, just like we've built teams from our property management to our construction to our direct to seller, we'll build out the teams. And I'm excited to help more. And one
yeah.
last thing I'll add to that is like, I'm excited, and this is why I do a ton of my content, and I appreciate you having me on today. Like, I want to speak on more stages and help more people. So this is kind of the first like little steps, right? But I want to be able
Yeah.
to help more people and at scale. So anyway, I'm hoping that these little sort of building blocks help me to get to that point so I can help more people.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing the um, fear, I guess, is that, not enough people are going to show up because a lot of us, we see, oh man, Casey's doing all these things. He's got followers, Instagram following, he's buying all the deals, but don't realize that you're also still a human and you have these same fears. They're just a different, in a different place and on a different scale, maybe than
Mhm.
that we have. And so I love that you shared that. I really appreciate that. When I don't know if I missed it, when's the workshop? Do you have it planned already?
Yeah,
Um,
it's gonna be the middle of July, about a week
okay.
after 4th of July. So yeah,
Okay.
so if anybody's
Is
interested,
this
please let me know.
yeah, is it going to be in Houston? Is it virtual?
Yep, we're gonna do it face to face in Houston. A big part of it. We've
Okay.
kind of played around with virtual, but yeah, it's something you got to be there. You got to be feeling the energy. And again, just like
Yeah.
anybody who's been to another mastermind, or if you haven't, you've got to be in that room, especially to create the momentum. And a, a lot of this, okay, and this is a man, haven't even thought about this, Nathaniel. So looking back, when I was surrounding myself at my W-2 job, right, I would talk about real estate and they'd all just be like, oh, wow, man, this is so cool. I can't believe you're doing all that. And it was supported, right? And also maybe other family and different people who didn't think like I did,
Mm,
but I wasn't getting momentum and getting excitement and that just like energy from those people. You know what I mean? But when I would go to these masterminds, I'll never forget it. Like I was still working my W-2 job. I was part of REI Game Changers and we were in Dallas. And I remember we were at the end of day one, we were having like our reflections the next day to get started. And I was just like, I just love being here because I get here and I get so much energy from
mm,
other people doing like now I'm not crazy anymore. You guys don't think I'm crazy. You guys think like I do that like, hey, I want to go do all these things. And so that's why being in that room with other people who have the same goals that don't have these limited beliefs that you probably have in your current environment, like get around those people because those people don't have the goals that you want, right? I want people to be
right.
around people who really want to shoot for something big and get them in the same room so they can have that vibration.
Yeah. I've only been to a couple. I host a meetup here. It doesn't have that same energy, but I've been to a couple other events and like you're saying, there's just a buzz. As soon as I walked into the hotel at Squad Up Summit, it was just like, oh man, you could feel you could feel it. People were
Mhm.
here talking about their big things, their big goals, and trying to work together and grow together. So I totally agree. I'm glad that you're doing it in person. Virtual is easier, of course, but
Mhm.
in that regard, it makes it more difficult to really get dialed in and honed in. And you definitely don't feel the vibe, the energy virtually through a StreamYard. No.
Yep.
You said a week after, kind of July, mid-July. Is there a place that we can go right now to sign up if that's something we're interested to get more information, or is it just reaching out to you on one of the social channels?
Yeah, you guys can find it on our website, caseygregerson.com/events.
Okay.
But also just feel free to reach out. I updated my name on there too, so you can just hit me up on Instagram if
Oh,
you're
sweet.
interested. Because
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
definitely loved it. Or if you're having trouble finding it, just reach out. I want to make sure or if you're worried about getting on the list or something, just let us know.
Yeah. Awesome. I appreciate that. You you mentioned, I just want to touch on it real quickly. You mentioned Subto, Owners Club. You've thrown a couple other masterminds in there. Is there anything, besides the energy? I guess no, you've really nailed you hit the nail on the head with masterminds, getting in the right rooms, being a part of building those relationships, feeling those energies. What really got you over the hump as far as putting your money and your time and your energy into these masterminds initially? I know once you get in there and you feel it, you're like, oh, I got to do more of this. But when somebody looks at the price tag of sub two, even for example, that's a big ticket. How do we get over that hurdle and go, this is really worth my time or my money?
Yeah, I had the same skepticism. Again, another story I'll never forget is before I joined that first group I was talking about, the REI Game Changers. I initially reached out because I met these guys. It's a funny story. I was presenting on the Burr strategy. This is back in like 2016 in Midland,
Okay.
Texas, right? And I was presenting at this REI club and talking about the Burr strategy. We were doing it out in DFW, and these guys came in and got to know him. His name was Alan and James. And they were talking about, hey, we're going to start wholesaling, and they were just launching at that point. So then, anyway, fast forward 2 or 3 years later, I was doing more deals in Wyoming, and there were no wholesalers. So I reached out to these guys, and I'm like, hey, you guys have been wholesaling. Like, how do I set up my like direct mail campaign? I don't even know what CRM to use. Like, do you guys have any advice? They're like, actually, Casey, we have a training course. We have like a mastermind we've kind of set up. And I'm like, well, cool. Tell me more. And then I saw like the price, and it was like 11 grand. I'm like, oh man, I'm not paying $11,000. And again, there was still a lot. And back then there was even gurus then too. And I'm like, I don't know about that. But when I looked at it, I'm like, they're like, dude, Casey, you have to close like one deal, not even one deal to pay for this. And fortunately I did it, because literally I did my first direct mail campaign, cost me like, I think 3 to 5 grand. And we closed probably 3 deals. And each one of those deals was more than 20,000 in profit. Right. So it paid in after not even half a deal we were paid for. Right. So I think that mindset of like, yes, it's a high ticket, but here's the kicker. There are so many people who do it, but don't take action. Right. If you're ready to take action, just make sure you're at a place or do whatever you can to plan this out to where I'm going to remove the hurdles and the blockers where I can go invest this 10,000 in this mastermind and I can go get out of it what I put into it. Because if you put it in, honestly, there's probably very few masterminds you won't get it out, but there are definitely some like Subto and Owners Club, these ones we talk about, where you are going to be blown away by the return you get on your money if you lean in.
Yeah. I like just for the relationships that you've built alone inside Subto, and now being a part of Owners Club, those more tight knit relationships, that alone's worth the money. Yeah, you're going to do deals. Deals are going to come. But all my friends are from Subto. I mean, for the most part, I have a couple old friends, but like they're all from Subto now because I want to be hanging out with like-minded individuals, like you said. I want to be with people that are growing and learning and supporting me and uplifting me. So I'll get off that soapbox real quick. You mentioned the 4-hour work week already, which is one that since you mentioned it, I need to go back. It's been a long time since I read that. But are there any other books that have kind of moved your needle along the way as a business owner, an entrepreneur, as a dad, a husband, that just Casey found interesting?
Oh man, so many. I'm trying not to do
So,
I'll say the background just so other people can maybe relate to it and see the evolution, right? But the first one was Rich Dad Poor Dad, like so many other people. I read that one, and that took me down a trail of like reading as many real estate books and everything I could and listen to all the podcasts. But a couple of them, Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. I've read that now twice, and I'm going to try to start making this an annual thing that I do in December so I can kind of start to plan out and get in the right mindset, because there's so many principles in that book that you can't apply them all at once. So I think taking little bits each time has been really good. Another one is no one talks about a lot, but I heard it years ago when I was going through all the podcasts and they're recommending books. And I'm like, I got to read that one. It's The Obstacle is the Way. It's a really cool one. Should I forget? Ryan Holiday. He's a really, really cool guy. I literally, I have actually, I wish I had it in here. I've got these coins. They say Memento Mori, and I bought one for each one of my boys. And and it's all memento mori means basically treat today like today could be your last day on earth, right? We're mortal, right? And it's just a super cool book. And I bought those for my boys too, to be a reminder that, hey, like don't take life for granted. We might not get tomorrow, and try to have that perspective every day when you wake up. So that book is like perspective like there, but also just unlocks so many things when you look at obstacles and how you can flip them and turn them upside down. And if you can do that in life, holy cow, like you can achieve anything.
I love it. I appreciate you. Yeah. I love that you mentioned rereading certain books, and like Buy Back Your Time is definitely one of them. I listened to it the first time. I have it over on the shelf because I was like, I need to buy that because he references things. I need to have the physical copy. That way I can go, okay, what was he talking about there? But that's definitely one that needs to get revisited. I think of like the Law of Attraction, The Gap and the Gain. Like those are ones you should revisit on a constant kind of loop, because as you grow and as you change, as you've read other books, those books hit differently. And so I'm appreciative of you for mentioning that. My last questions you already mentioned. At Casey Gregerson, you said caseygregerson.com as your website for finding more resources, but you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube. Those are all places that we can get involved in your world. Last question on networking with Nathaniel I like to ask everybody is, when your time on this earth has expired, when you are wherever you believe you are, what do you want to be remembered for by the people that you've left behind?
Good. Such a good one, man. And I was going to think it through and give a more but I'll just kind of shoot off the cuff.
Yeah.
This is why I left my W-2 job I thought from this frame of mind, I'm like, because I was missing all my kids' games at the time. I was still working in the office, had a great gig, making good money, doing the real estate thing. I had it perfect. It seemed like a perfect life, right? But I was having to miss half of my kids' games, and I've got 4 boys now, and these were like such special moments. I'm like, I look from that same perspective when I'm on my deathbed or when I'm at the end, like and I'm looking back, what am I going to think? Right. And I'm like, that helped me give the clarity. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to play it safe for the next couple of years when I could. I'm going to make the decision now. And that's why I ended up leaving my W-2. And now I can be there for my kids, and I can be there for the games and set my own schedule. So with that in mind, I hope at the end that people are like, hey, he did what was important. He gave everything he had, and was a good dad, was a good husband. And I'm just hoping I can have more of an impact on more and more people's life. As I mentioned, I want to be able to speak to more people, be on bigger stages so I can help more. I hope people just think back, hey, he was genuine. He wanted to help. He helped me move along, and ultimately just had an impact on more people, but especially my kids, right? My spouse and my kids. Like I want them to be like, hey, he hustled. And maybe that's one too, right? Because they don't quite get to see. My wife sees it a little bit, but just like the hustle that it took to get here and how hard he worked. Just that he did it, but he did it for us, right? He did it because he wanted to create a life where he could be there with us and we could be doing the things. That's one of my big whys, right? I want to be able to do what I want with whom I want, when I want. And I'm getting closer and closer every day. And there's still a grind, right? There's still sacrifices to be made. I hope at the end, they'd be like, all right, I see why Casey worked so hard, because this is what he wanted.
Yeah. I love that. That's my kind of definition of financial freedom for me. Do what I want, when I want, with who I want, without regard for the costs so much. I wouldn't normally ask another question after this, but you, being the busy dad that you are, how are you prioritizing that time with your kids, with your family?
Yeah, it's far from perfect. It might look like, and my wife will tell you that. You're like, oh, everybody probably thinks you got it all nailed down based on your social media, but I don't, for sure. It's a constant tweak, right? Like even working in, like even weekends, right? Like I'm trying to squeeze in, if we're driving out for a baseball game for 30 minutes or 40 minutes away, I'm going to listen to either a podcast, or going to call, or I'm going to do something to help keep this moving. So it's just a constant little tug and little battle. And I think a couple things I would say is just waking up early, right? I started doing that years ago, to where I'm trying to be up. I wake up sometimes between 4 and 5 a.m. every day. during the week and most weekends as well. And having that time from say 5, if I can be on work by 5 and have like even 5 to 7 before my kids up, like that's 2 hours of it's one of my favorite times of the day, right? Is like, there's no distractions. I could just be getting ahead. So I think that's a big one. And then just like Pace was one of the best instructors for this, and he learned it from Dan Martell, is just being intentful about your schedule and your calendar and putting in your priorities. So, and that's one I'm still working on, being more intentful. And it's really taking the time. The hardest thing I think is to take the time to plan it, right? I'm more like, hey, let's go, let's get things done. I don't want to take time when just planning it out, or I feel like I don't have time for that. But the more that I make time for that, the more I'm able to balance it. And then I can work in these important family things that I got to make sure I'm there for and work. And that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, right? Is that's why we worked so hard and why I did everything I could, so I could make these decisions. So anyway, so it's waking up early and it's squeezing it in wherever I can. And then maybe the last thing is involving them. The last thing we did a piece of content last night where I'm like, hey guys, help me do this. Cause it was a cool little video where we were outside playing baseball, and I want to make sure it's fun for them, and they're not just like, oh, dad's working, doing his content, but try to get them involved so we can be doing it at the same time and creating memories and also helping achieve our goals.
Love it. I appreciate that. It's almost like you've been listening to the Fit Fatherhood podcast. Because that's what the last bit especially is like, we talk about fitting all the different things in and kind of knocking 2 things out at the same time. Like, hey, I got to cook dinner. Why don't I have the kids help me cook dinner? That way I'm getting quality time with them and I'm eating healthy, right? Or like, I got to go exercise outside. Why don't I push them in the stroller? Now I'm getting time with the kids and I'm getting a little bit more resistance on my exercise. So I appreciate you being here, brother. If you got to jump off, I totally understand. If not, we'll chat a little bit afterwards. Casey Gregerson, everybody, say bye.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, I cut him off. Hold on, wait. Go ahead. Say it again.
I was just going to say, if anybody has any questions or follow-ups, please reach out.
Yeah.
You guys know where to find me.
Appreciate you. That was Casey Gregerson. Amazing. I'm glad that we touched on that little bit at the end, especially for all you family people out there. It is about planning. It is about being intentional with your calendar. You know, he mentioned putting those things into the calendar and holding yourself accountable to it, and then fitting things together. You know, even if you're not a family person, he said, you know, when he's driving to things, he's listening to a podcast, he's listening to a book, he's having a phone call with somebody. So instead of just turning on talk radio, you know, you can do that as well, but instead of just turning on sports radio, something that's not really moving your needle, get some value, get some education, maybe build a relationship while you're on that 30-minute drive. So I appreciate y'all for being here. As always, Helping Hands Hour is live on Thursdays at noon Eastern time. If you guys are not already subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button so you can get notified of future videos when they come out. If you haven't done so already, like this video so we can reach more people. We'll see you next week with another amazing guest. Later, y'all.